Our final project demonstrates the controlling agency of government. In Module 9, it is defined as the use of the power to punish. Although this definition is sometimes offered as exhaustive, governmental agencies often resort to other kinds of control. In this video, we will demonstrate 5 conditioning principles that governmental entities use in local city council meetings.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Jeremy, and I am from Louisiana. I wanted to come here today to talk about the absurd nature of some Utahns as they struggle with extreme soda addiction. Back home in Louisiana, we implemented some preventative ideas, strategies that help people commit themselves to avoiding temptation. One example of this type of strategy is setting an alarm before going to bed. Setting the alarm is committing to waking up earlier, whether that's to go to the gym, get to work on time, or mow the lawn like some of my neighbors back home in Louisiana would do at the crack of dawn. I believe we could implement programs within this city to help Orem's Gray citizens recognize the dangers of caffeinated beverages. My idea is having citizens sign a contract stating that they won't drink soda, therefore committing themselves to never drinking those menacing concoctions again. Back home in Louisiana, we implemented a strategy to rid our town of the evils of cocaine and heroin. The strategy we implemented was having every citizen spend 2 weeks in the state jail so they would know what they were in for if they ever got caught with those murderous items. The people here in Utah love to testify about the truth of things, and I am here today to testify to you of pre-commitment strategies and how much they can help not only this town, but this great American country and this God-given land. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave. As citizens, we need to be free of these harrowing liquids and brave enough to do so on our own. So let's take a stand now. Who's with me?
Hi there, my name is Jen Bodden, and I'm here to tell you about my plan to keep people out of prison in our city. And I've got to say, I think my plan is the best plan you're going to see all day. My plan is to meet with each person we're trying to keep out of prison and give them some sort of thing that will influence them to not commit the crime. And it's based on their behavior. When we see the behavior we want, we give them the object or the thing. So for example, we have a lot where we can't collect more than 2,500 gallons of rainwater if it rains. And Bob keeps collecting 5,000 gallons. This is against the law. He keeps getting caught. We want to keep him out of prison. So we're going to find something that will influence Bob to not commit this crime again and only collect the legally allowed amount of water. We could give Bob a plant. We could give him a voucher to have his lawn mowed, something like that. And we'll do it every time he does the behavior we want of not collecting more than 2,500 gallons of water. And this will keep Bob's yard looking nice, it'll keep people out of prison, and it'll keep everybody happy. That is my plan for our town.
Good evening, Council. My name is Daniel Peters, and I'm here to present a law prohibiting the swearing of all persons within the boundaries of this city. I grew up in Utah, and having 4 children going through the school system, I've seen a drastic change in their language, which I think is highly connected to their behavior. Now, my children are by no means juvenile delinquents like many of the kids in the school system, but I believe this law could be beneficial for all children. It would be similar to the City of Logan law, however, it would not only apply to women. In this case, I believe this law should apply to everyone. Our religious leaders have forbidden us from cursing or using harsh language, as it encourages suggestive thoughts, actions, and often crude behavior. I've seen examples of this in the children of the school system and even in my own life when I was growing up. Using explicit language or expletives would result in soap in your mouth, which has worked very well for my children and even worked well for me growing up. This has worked miracles on children all around. However, for adults, I believe this should be accompanied by a $100 fine for each swear word used, and if fines total above $1,000, offender will not be allowed to speak at all for a week. And if the behavior continues beyond this point, the offender will be put on house arrest for 2 weeks. We must expect better of ourselves and our children, so we can start with how we speak to each other.
Hi there, y'all. This is Alexis Sterling speaking. And as a fellow city council member, I'd like to make a proposition that would allow our meetings to run a little more smoothly. I've noticed that with each meeting, we bounce around from topic to topic, and this leads to a lot of confusion and nothing getting done. I think that this has kept us from being the best city council members that I know we can be. I propose that each meeting we create an agenda and organize topics of discussion by category. These categories could be organized by importance, the important issues of our constituents. The most important issues will be discussed first, then the second most important, then the third, and so on. Instead of wasting time on unimportant issues, we address the most important ones first. Simple as that. I think that this will help us as we learn about and address the needs of our community. Thank you.
Okay, I think it's time to get a new idea that we're all thinking, and we all know what's really going on. China's watching us. They know what's going on. They've got bugs in our water, they're in the schools, and they're in the prisons now, too. So if we want to keep them out, and if we want to get things back to normal and good, I think my approach and my change would be generalization. Generalizing everything to make sure that we get rid of all those bureaucracies, all those things that they can pick up on, all the ways for them to sneak in, and just simplify it. If you're hurting somebody, then it's a crime, and you're going to get punished. If you're jaywalking and you're not hurting anybody, you won't get punished. It's as simple as that. This is the way that we can ensure that everything is just under our control. You know what I'm saying? Not under somebody else's control, but we need to make sure that we're the ones in control. So simplify it, generalize it, get rid of all that fluff and all that extra stuff, and just make it a simple law that everybody can follow together.
Okay, so for my portion of the video, I was talking about pre-commitment strategies. So pre-commitment strategies are pretty much committing oneself beforehand in order to avoid some type of temptation or some type of bad behavior in the future. So one example that probably a lot of us are familiar with is like the DARE program that we go through in elementary school. So the DARE program, you commit yourself when you're in elementary school to not take drugs in the future. And so that promise you're making to yourself is an example of pre-commitment strategy.
Okay, so my concept was continuous reinforcement schedule. It's a pretty basic concept where you have a behavior that you want modified, and anytime the person or animal shows the behavior that you want to see, you reinforce it. It could be with an object, like a verbal reward, anything like that, but you give it to them every time they do the behavior that you want to see. So if I wanted to see my dog sit, I would reinforce the behavior every time he sat and I told him to sit. I would give him a treat. So similar to that.
My presentation is punishment, which refers to a change in operant conditioning to decrease behavior. It is often confused with negative enforcement. However, the difference between the two is negative enforcement is the absence of something to increase behavior, whereas punishment is to decrease behavior. The most obvious example of this in our agency, which is government, is the prison system. The taking away of our freedom and rights or privileges in hopes of decreasing illegal behavior. On the even more extreme end, the death sentence takes it even farther to the taking of absolutely everything to completely stop a behavior.
Okay, so in my portion of the city council video, I demonstrate the principle of categorization. And categorization is defined as arranging items into classes or categories. And another way of explaining this is through something called category learning, which is learning to identify specific items as members or not, or part of a larger group or a set of items. For example, if I want to understand the function of two different things, I'm going to take inventory of their similarities and differences in relation to each other. And this allows me to determine whether those things are the same, similar, or totally different. And we do this with objects, places, animals, and even people when we learn.
So if you couldn't tell, my technique was generalization. I even said the word in there. But this wasn't one of the techniques that was specifically covered in the chapter which made it a little bit interesting to throw in there, but you can apply it to just about anything. And it's been done sometimes in the past in different cultures and societies to just simplify things. That's kind of the synonym there. Generalization really means simplification, and to get rid of all those different sort of bylaws or contingencies that are put in there. People have always complained in American history about different things being unfair and whatnot, and certain people get benefited and others don't, and so this is just a way to combat that and simplify everything across the board for everybody.
The main thing I've learned from this class is that learning is the base of everything. So I'm a communications major, so I've learned a lot about communication and different theories of communication during my time at UVU. But what I've learned from this class is that learning is even the basis of communication. Learning is the basis of everything we do in this life. And without learning, without the studying of learning, we wouldn't be anywhere in this world.
I've learned a lot in this class, especially about behavior modification and obviously conditioning. And I've been able to take what I've learned in the class and apply it with my family, friends, my dogs, my chickens. And I understand why they behave the way that they do better now, and I understand why they are conditioned the way that they are, and I can recognize what kind of conditioning happens that led to their behavior. So it's been really, really interesting this semester to learn all about conditioning.
So what I learned in this class, before I began this class, I had the basic understanding of operational and classical conditioning that we all learn in the beginning of our psychology courses. However, I had never thought much farther than that. This class has taught me that learning is more than a natural or learned response through reinforcement or punishment. Stimulus matters, the patterns and stimuli matter. Anything can affect our learning, and there are multiple reasons for learning.
Okay, so I've learned a ton in this class. And as a behavioral science major, I find human behavior just so fascinating. And what this class has allowed me to really understand and appreciate is how, as human beings, we're conditioned to perform certain behaviors, right? Whether that's in our own communities, in our own homes. And it really helps me to understand why people do the things that they do, why I do the things that I do, and speak the same, the ways that I do. And I think that will be really helpful to me as I pursue my degree in psychology, and just understanding behaviors and the theories and principles behind that, as well as studies to back those theories up. So it's been very enlightening to learn all these different kinds of conditioning and all of the things that go into that.
For me, what I got out of this assignment and what I've learned is that even if there's something that seems more complex and maybe a little bit complicated and you're not sure quite how to do it, just diving in and going for anything really helps you to just have more confidence in that you can do it. I wasn't sure really how we were going to tackle this project or how it was all going to go, but I've learned that just by going in and diving in and trying it out, you can accomplish it and you can get it done. And it's actually pretty enjoyable when you do that too. So that's what I've learned.